Welcome back to In the Kitchen at Savory Jack's. Today Matt and I are going to be making some Christmas cookies for you. It's a Christmas tree actually, and I made this for a movie called Family Man, and if you watch it, it's an old movie back in 2002 with Nicolas Cage and Téa Leoni, and the opening scene is him arriving at a Christmas party, and we made a bunch of crazy food for him that he had to eat, and the Christmas tree cookie is actually one of them. So we're going to get started because it's kind of a long thing to do here. We want to start with a half a cup of brown sugar and 1 stick of unsalted butter. This recipe, if you do it one time, is how we're doing it today, but if you want to multiply it out, it works really great to multiply it out if you want to make more cookies. This will actually make about 9 of the Christmas trees that we're going to decorate because we're using a pretty big cutter. So make sure you have your butter at room temperature so it'll blend pretty easy. So it's 1 stick of butter and a half a cup of dark brown sugar. And we're going to let that blend for just a second. So what we're going to add to that, once the butter and the sugar get all blended well together, we're going to add our dry and liquid ingredients. Flour is going to go in last. We'll start with a teaspoon of vanilla, and you want to make sure the butter is all nice and creamy and not stuck to the edge like it's doing here now. And scrape in the bowl, make sure you get it all nice and smooth. Knock it off the whip and try to keep it all in the bowl if you can. It works a lot better. So we'll let that whip for just a second, and since our stuff is all room temperature, it's gonna be pretty quick, so I'll let you give you a nice little shot on the inside so you can see the brown sugar and all is all nice and smooth. So we'll put that back in the bowl, turn our blender back on, start with a little extra liquid. We'll add in the teaspoon of vanilla. Oh, the eggs we'll do next. Eggs are at room temperature. I always like to bake with everything at room temperature. So we're starting with 2 eggs. And I always find it's a little bit easier when you're baking if you whip the eggs before you add them into the blender. So we'll make nice little scrambled eggs here. And then we'll add that right into our sugar mixture. Ooh. Scrape it out, make sure we get it all in there. Okay, eggs are in. Let that whip for just a second. Then we can start with some of our dry ingredients. We have 2 teaspoons of baking powder. We have 1/2 teaspoon of salt. All that's in. And then we're going to slowly add in 2.5 cups of sifted all-purpose flour. So we'll add a little bit here. There we go. Ooh, yeah. If you add a little bit at a time, you won't make a mess like I just did and have it spread all over the place. So this is a pretty fun recipe. I've used it in probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 different movies. The first one that came to mind was Family Man. I also used it for a movie called The Soloist, which we'll be doing another segment of soon. We had to create for The Soloist a 1965 Christmas party, so all the food in it was period. So it's kind of fun. We did some old-fashioned stuff from a book we found, an old Good Housekeeping cookbook from that time frame. Get the rest of the flour in. This is such an easy recipe to make because we're almost done, and we'll get to the fun part pretty quickly here. Just let this mix in really good.
What year did The Soloist come out? Do you remember?
The Soloist was 2002. And, oh no, I'm sorry, that was later. That was Family Man. The soloist starred Robert Downey Jr. as, okay. Robert Downey Jr. played a reporter from the LA Times who discovered a violin player who actually suffered from schizophrenia. And the scene we did from 1960 was when the guy had his first breakdown. But when the LA Times guy found him, he was living under a bridge and was playing a violin that only had 2 strings.
Really?
Yeah, and the storyline goes, well, we'll talk about that more when we get over to the stuff from that. Because honestly, I gotta look it up. All right, now we have just a nice big dough ball of cookie dough. And I'll show you a little trick that I actually learned from the joy of cooking. We have 2 pieces of parchment paper here, and we're gonna take one away for just a second. We're gonna slightly pat out our cookie dough. We're gonna add the second piece of parchment paper onto the top of it. Got our nice big rolling pin here, and then we're gonna start rolling it out. The reason why I like to do this is we're gonna freeze this once we get it done. And then that way, when the dough's a little sticky, it'll stick to your rolling pin, and this way you can keep it all nice and clean. And there's another little trick to this, and that's to keep flipping it. Release the top one.
So if I don't have parchment paper or wax paper, would saran wrap work too?
The saran wrap won't really work on this because it'll just grip it too much, and it won't release and won't let it move. You can find parchment paper at any of your grocery stores and just rip out a couple of nice pieces. So let's see. Alrighty. So we've got this pretty much rolled out between the 2 sheets again, and it's nice and smooth. You can just rub over the top of it and feel how thick it is, and maybe still a little thick on this side.
So how thin do we roll it out to?
Pretty thin.
Gotcha.
Because they will rise a bit when you bake them. So, okay. So now we have our finished cookie dough. Oh, got a little extra there. I'm going to leave that right there because we may need that for, got a little, that was underneath. Coming out on the edge. If it comes out on the edge, you can just break it off. So what you want to do once you get the cookie dough rolled out nice and thin between the 2 sheets is we're going to freeze this. You could go ahead and cut this now if you wanted to, but your cookies may not hold as good a shape, and I've discovered if you cut the cookie dough and cook it while it's frozen, it works a whole lot better. So I'm going to walk this over and put it in the freezer, and out of the freezer, frozen. So nice and cold. What you want to do before you start cutting your cookies out is to make sure you release what will be the bottom of this by simply pulling off the parchment paper. Now this piece we want to put back on top of it gently, and then we want to pull the top piece off. Ooh, nice and frozen. And this piece you can discard. We're going to do the jumbo size Christmas tree today, which makes about 9 out of this, so you can kind of figure out if you want to make 2 or 3 dozen how many batches of this you'll need to make, or if you wanted to use a smaller Christmas tree, you'd get about 2 dozen out of that. But we're kind of liking the big ones today. So you want to start at the edge. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, and the dough is frozen, so it'll pop right out, and there you have your very first Christmas tree. And you know what? I think I'm going to let Matt continue to cut if he can. And then I'm going to slide next to him, and we're going to start with the paint for the cookies. You know what? I will use this bowl. I have two different colors today that we're using. We're using green for the base of the tree, or for the top of the tree, and then the trunk will paint black. This is an old trick. I like to use egg yolks with the food coloring. It gives a nice shiny gloss to the paint. So we want to get rid of all the egg white there, which I just did into the wrong one, but whoop, easy to get rid of. So it's about 1 egg yolk to paint these 9 trees. So I think you can get 3 across on there, Matt. So, oops, I did have an extra bowl for the whites. So just remember, 1 egg yolk will cover what we're doing 1 times the recipe. So if you're going to do 2 or 3 times the recipe, you might want to do 2 or 3 times the egg yolk there. And another fun little trick is to take a couple of these frozen pieces. I like to have 2 paint brushes. I like to have a paintbrush for each color I'm using. That way you don't have to stop, clean, wash, whatever. You can just keep going between the colors that we're going to be using. The small paintbrush I'm going to use on the trunks because it's a little bit easier. And that we're going to, and you can just use your paintbrush to mix your color in. We're going to put a few drops of black ink into the egg yolk, and we're going to mix it up really nice and good there. Get all that off of the brush. The reason why I pulled this little piece over was because it's kind of a nice thing to do if you want to just check the color of your food coloring. And so I think we got a nice brown there to paint with. So the brown, if it'll get off my finger, or black rather, for the trunk is done. And now I have a fatter 2-inch. These are just regular paint brushes. You can get these at any hardware store and they work great for cake decorating. And the big one will be easier for painting the green on the tree. So let's break that up. Of course, industrial size, green always helps. Ooh. And then we want to just wipe that in with the brush again. And again, we'll take a little, and you know, the leftover cookie dough, this you can always, once it's warmed up a bit, you can always roll this back out, flatten it out again, freeze it again, and then you've got extra to start with. And we're going to do a little tester on our, maybe just a tad bit greener. You can't get too green, I say, for Christmas. So
how long will the cookie dough last in the freezer if I have extra?
Oh, it'll last for months in there if you wrap it tight and leave it in there. So
I can do some for Christmas, anything left over, I can always
save for Easter.
Easter, Valentine's Day,
All right.
holidays.
Up, you want to get that out of our. So now we've got our frozen cookie dough all cut out on the tray, all ready to go. We're going to start with the green. I'm just going to start at the. Ooh. I'm going to start at the base of the cookie and just paint up on these. Whew. Don't worry if you mess up because the black will cover anything. This is something fun you can do with the kids because they can be painting while you're cutting. And just be careful because that food coloring does not like to come out. Once I've painted all 9 of these, I will come back again with the brush. I want to let this egg yolk and mixture dry for just a moment, or actually just get nice and cold on this frozen dough. See if we had another tray, Matt could be doing the bases instead of just staring at me while he's standing there.
So the food coloring is going to soak into the cookie dough?
Oh no, it'll stay on the top. It makes a nice, the egg yolk and the food coloring makes it a nice kind of a paint. So you get a dried, shiny coating on for decorating in just a second.
So you just need two
So-
coats then?
Huh?
So you only need 2 coats of
No. What I just come back after it's had a moment with the
Oh.
brush, and I go across instead of up and down, because it gives the tree that looks
Oh, I
like a
see.
real
More
tree.
definition.
Yeah, and it'll bake that way too, and it'll get rid of the big clumps if you come back across. As you can see in this one, there's a couple of like that little egg part there. Okay, green is done. And now we'll move to the base here. And you just want to start right at the edge of the green and brush down. Or up, either or. And again, you can't mess up. There's no right or wrong with this. It's just because there's no 2 trees are ever alike, so you don't have to worry about making them perfect. Okay, and our Christmas trees are ready for the oven, so we'll stick these in. We'll let them bake for about 10 or 12 minutes, and we'll be right back when they're ready to come out of the oven. Oh. So we'll let them, ooh, nice and loose already. You can see how the egg you washed gave them a nice sheen there on the top. We'll let them cool for just a moment here on our cooling rack. So they should get to be a little pretty, they don't have to cool all the way, but you want them to be nice and cool so you can handle them before you start the decorating process, because you will have to pick them up. So one last one. Get rid of this hot tray. All right, so while they're cooling for just a second, what we're going to do is we're going to decorate them so they look like they are lit Christmas trees out in the middle of the woods. So let me go get the icings and stuff ready, and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, all right, so we've let our cookies sit on a cooling rack here for a few minutes so they're nice and cool so we can work with them. We have about 1.5 cups of confectioner's sugar here that we're going to make the icing with. There's several different ways you can make it. Some recipes call for egg whites. For something like this, I just prefer a little bit of water. And it's about 2 tablespoons. You don't want it to be too runny because it'll run off. You don't want it to be too thick because you'll never get it to spread on there. And the thing about powdered sugar is it's almost a liquid. So it takes a very small amount of liquid to bring it back to a liquid. So,
And for the water, does it matter if it's hot or cold?
no. So we don't want it ice cold, and you don't want it real hot either. So just tepid water is good. Ooh, yeah, make a mess. It's a good thing for the kids to do because then you don't have to clean up after them. You know what, I'm going to move these over just a bit so I don't get them decorated before I get the icing made. So once you get the icing to a nice consistency, I like to use a little squeeze bottle only because it makes it a lot easier than using a piping bag. But if you have a piping bag, a cookie piping bag, you want to use a really small tip on the end of it. That way you don't get too much icing on the cookies. So,
You
yeah.
could also maybe use a Ziploc bag and just cut the tip.
Yes, you could. Just cut a small hole so it doesn't come all the way out on you. This is too runny for the cookies. It would just pour off if you use it as it is. But the good thing about powdered sugar and water, you can just add a little bit more powdered sugar. The bag is fine, Matt, as we blooper it up here. So if you want to do this, you just want to add a little bit at a time till you get it to where you want it. Oh yeah, now we're getting there. Okay. Just still a tad bit too runny. This icing will dry nice and hard once you get it on the cookie, and it'll last, and it doesn't have to be refrigerated. There's no animal product in it, so that's a good thing. So now you see the consistency. It leaves little tracks there. That's about where you want it. And now what I have done, I've already made a little bit of this, and I put it in a little tiny little squeeze bottle so it'll be easy to manage. And if you let this sit up for just a second, if it's still, you think, too wet. And now this is the fun part. These are little icing candies. You can buy them in multi-packs and individual colors or whatever. So what I did is I bought a couple of the multicolored packs, and I just dump them all into this tray so that they're nice and loose. And you're going to leave that there. We're going to take our first cookie. And then we're just going to make snowballs on the cookie. Yeah, nice, thick. And then one more across the bottom. And shake off the excess. And now here's the fun part. We're simply going to drop that. Shake it around a bit, and there you have it. We have a little Christmas tree with Christmas lights.
That's really neat.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll do one more just in case you missed how to do that. You want to do one?
I can give it a try.
So just let the excess icing drop off, and then just make your little snowballs, and then just drop it in, shake it around a bit, shake off the excess, and there again, we have lovely little Christmas trees. Hey, 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 hey. Go ahead.
All right.
We'll let Matt try one. If Matt can do it, anyone can do it.
If I can do it, anybody
Yeah.
can do it. I'm going to try a little different. I'm going to try ornaments.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you just try. Be different.
That'll be enough for demonstration. Yeah.
And there you go, option number 2. So everyone here at Savory Jacks would like to wish each and every one of you a very happy, safe holiday season. We hope you do a lot of cooking, a lot of eating. Come visit us. We're open Tuesday through Saturday nights for dinner. So enjoy the holidays, and we hope to see you soon. We'll see you later.
See ya.